maybe I'll share a story of a client about sort of some of those, how stories can get in the way of what we do. And yes, that is a coach. And at the same time, I think a lot of us can relate. Okay. Let's do this one. I worked with a coach who had built a 7-figure business before, a different kind of business. Okay. And she then switched into coaching. Okay. Now, at the time of the decision, there was all of this. Okay, I did this here, starting over, that went into it. Sure. But here's the thing. At the height of her previous business, her husband ended their relationship, claiming she cared more about the business than about their relationship. Okay. 3 weeks after that, her mom suffered a stroke and passed away. At the time when we started working, 5 years later, she had made the switch to building a coaching business, but her husband was still suing her for every cent of that business. And here she had built up her coaching business to, a decent amount, but couldn't get past a certain threshold right around the 10K mark, which for coaches is a significant kind of breaking point in the business. And she just couldn't figure out why. Now, her excuse could not be that she didn't know how, because she had done it before. Right. So here, why I'm picking this is usually we go to, I don't know how, so I need to learn how to do marketing, lead gen and all this, but it's like, no, I've done all that before. Right. So it must be something else. And when we dove deep into, okay, so what's going on, explore the stories. When she reflected on those very emotional experiences a few years back, she realized that she had formed a belief, a story deep inside that said, if I'm successful financially, it will hurt my relationships.
Yeah.
And with a story like that, despite all her business know-how, she wasn't doing what she knew to pick a business up.
Yeah.
And that's the power of story. Having realized that and, very emotionally released it and healed that story and replaced it with a new one in the work we did, well, it almost instantly went to, okay, now I know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Move on. And whether that shows up in a relationship because it's about, who earns more in the relationship, whether that shows up in a story that is maybe also relatable. When I started out my business, I had the aspiration to be a loving father and present and to build my business. But I really didn't do either quite well, because when I was working on my business, I was always trying to, get back to my kids. But when I was with my kids, I was worried about the business. And so I was turning in circles and not doing either of it right. Until my coach at the time looked at me and said, well, it sounds like you say you either can be successful in your business or, right, you can be the father you want to be. I'm like, yeah, that's what it feels like. It's like, well, how can you do both?
Yeah.
And everything shifted, right?
Yeah.
And it's those stories, it's those beliefs about how the world works, those judgments about ourselves not being good enough as either, in your role or as a husband or as a father, that are how we see the world, that create our reality. And those determine how we feel about what's going on.
Yeah.
And how we feel about what's going on determines what actions we take or don't take.
Yeah.
And then, and only then, do you get to the results that you're getting.